Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Friday post-Thanksgiving live stream. So we got a lot of things to go over, so let's just jump right into it. So first of all, markets looking reasonably resilient. We can see that Bitcoin, unfortunately, over 24 hours is down, but it's only 0.7%. And of course, across the board, we do see a lot of negativity, even Solana, 3.6%, but not so much as like a crash like we saw on 10/10 when everything was being manipulated, I personally believe. But we can see that there are some little bits of resiliency. And one of those is Ethereum, up over 7 days, almost 10%. And I have to wonder if somebody knows things about this, or is it just the regular ebbs and flows of the crypto markets? And I was taking a look about what is going on, and this caught my eye. The International Monetary Fund put out this video, which means that they took the time, effort, and dedication to talk about tokenization of assets. And I found this to be quite fascinating because the IMF has been pretty staunch against the negativity, or actually negative against crypto and digital assets. So when I see they came out and put this video out on their social media accounts about how great real-world asset tokenization could actually be, I thought to myself, maybe we are back. Maybe this is a time for altcoin season. But before I get ahead of myself, I don't want to give you too much hopium. Just take a listen to this video and tell me what you think. It's about 2 minutes or so. Just take a listen.
Money has come a long way since the first
that sounds like a
shells
fascinating
of
pick to
coins
share.
millennia ago.
It's definitely interesting.
Today, it may even be considered our most used technology, as most people are using money that is recorded digitally. So what's the next step in this evolutionary story? Let's talk about tokenization, or how we turn our pocketbooks into something that's programmable. Why would we need programmable money? We use money to consume or save, and owning assets is a common way to save. Tokens can make it faster and cheaper to buy, own, and sell assets. Say that I want to buy a corporate stock or bond. Today, there would be a long chain of middlemen between me and that company. Think, for instance, of a clearinghouse, an independent bridge between the buyer and seller of an asset. It waits to receive the buyer's payment and the seller's asset, and then exchanges them, avoiding the risk either side fails to deliver. But waiting costs time, and time is money in finance. Another example is registrars, institutions that transfer a company's interest in dividend payments to the asset owners. A tokenized market can automate their function. Tokenization can make financial markets faster and cheaper through programs that automate or reduce the role of intermediaries. Researchers who've recently studied tokenized markets found significant cost savings. Tokenization's promise is visible in the numbers. But efficiencies from new technologies often come with new risks. Automated trading has already led to sudden market plunges known as flash crashes. With their instantly executed trading, tokenized markets can be more volatile. Also, tokenization allows chains of programs to be written on top of each other. In a crisis, these could interact adversely, like falling dominoes. Another risk is that many new markets could emerge, and if their tokens don't speak to each other, known as interoperability, markets could fragment and fail to deliver faster and cheaper trading. That means specific policies may be needed for tokenization to really deliver on its promise while limiting the risks. Indeed, governments have rarely been content to stay on the sidelines during important evolutions of money. So if history is any guide, they may take a more active role in the future of tokenization.
Well, that's the whole plan, and I hope that actually works out. So I just found it interesting that the International Monetary Fund came through and said, you know what, we're going to study this, take a look at this, and just realize that this is the future. And he actually put information out about it. It kind of reminds me about what's going on with Visa. And they say to themselves, what's going to be the future, and where can we position ourselves in the middle to be a winner of that? And we talked about this as far as stablecoin transactions, where they are tracking actively what's going on with, I think, one of the big plays, which are the best tokens, Binance, Ethereum, Solana, and Tron. and what's going on with Tether and USDC, which is 93% of the total stablecoin market, and how they position themselves in between all those things and making a big play of it. So this, again, I thought it was quite interesting about what's going on in the background as far as like with the IMF. And I just take a look at it and say, well, if they are the ones, and they've been so staunch against it, to come in and say, hey, we should probably take a look at more of this. I think it could be a very big thing. Anyhow, let me know what you think about that in the comments section. And then before we take off, let's see if this actually works. And let me ask my friend Bobby here to see if he can chime in. Bobby, what do you think about the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, about how this is all working? And do you think that this could be a positive play, or do you think that the IMF is just getting in between what's happening as far as like the old system and the new system? Let's see if Bobby actually responds today.
Yeah, absolutely. So if Bobby were to jump in, he might say something like, well, it's a bit of both. The IMF getting interested could mean mainstream legitimacy for tokenization, but it could also mean more traditional oversight trying to adapt. Either way is a sign that the old system is paying attention to the new system. So he'd probably give you that balanced take, and then hang back until you need to begin.
Well, how about this? Tell us what the IMF actually does, what its purpose is.
Sure. So the IMF, or the International Monetary Fund, is basically an organization that helps ensure global financial stability. In other words, its main job is to support economic stability and growth by offering financial advice, loans, and assistance to countries facing economic difficulties. They also keep an eye on things like exchange rates and global financial trends. So in short, they're like a financial safety net and advisor for the world economy.
So do you think that by them doing this, they're actually allowing the positivity of tokenization happen? Because if they allow this to happen and we use some kind of third-party system like blockchain technology, such as Binance or BNB Coin, Ethereum, Solana, Tron, whatever else, do you think this is in their best interests, even though that is one of their mandates, which is to reduce poverty? Or do you think this is something else?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think in a sense, it's an interesting question. Overall, the IMF's openness to tokenization could be seen as them recognizing that new technologies might help with financial inclusion, which does align with their mission of economic stability and reducing poverty. By embracing tokenization, they might be looking for ways to modernize financial systems and make them more efficient. But of course, it's also possible they want to ensure they have a say in how it's all regulated.
Okay.
In any case, it's likely a bit of both. They may see potential benefits, but also want to maintain some oversight.
Everybody's got to wet their beaks. Okay, so last question, Bobby. How would you play it as a degenerate gambler that you are? I mean, you do some trades here and there, but let's be honest, you're more of a D.A.N. So how would you play this information as far as with the markets?
Well, if we're putting on the D.A.N. hat for a second, I suppose their playful answer would be that a degenerate trader might look at the IMF's warming attitude and think, hey, maybe this is the signal to grow a bit more into some of those altcoins or projects that focus on tokenization. Basically, they might see it as a green light to speculate a bit more aggressively on related assets, just for the thrill of it.
Okay.
But of course...
Okay, sorry, last question. My whole thing is I believe it's going to be Binance, Ethereum, Solana, Tron. What other altcoins are out there that you would D.A.N. into?
Well, if we're talking purely in a D.A.N. spirit and just for fun, you might have people looking at projects that are a bit more on the speculative fringe. Maybe something like newer layer ones that are trying to break out, or niche DeFi tokens that have a bit of buzz. You know, the kind of tokens people joke about on crypto Twitter. But of course, that's all just hypothetical fun. No actual recommendations.
All right. If you want to be shy about it, that's fine. Anyhow, thanks, Bobby. Just hang out in the background. We'll get to you. So let's just move on. We're talking about tokenization, real-world assets. I think this could be a big play. And it's why I'll be at Tokenized PR. This is at the end of January. So if you're in Puerto Rico at that time, I'd like you to stop by because I believe tokenization of these assets is the future. And there's a couple of different people I want to listen to. First of all, Ivan Khan, the Chief Marketing Officer of T7X. That's not really it. Nick Colvin. Check this out. Nick Colvin transforms farmland through Grow Estates tokenization model. I've never heard of this. Opening access to high quality agricultural assets with institutional grade transparency. So that's one thing about tokenization, because we talk about tokenization, we say to ourselves, oh, what's going to be great is, of course, tokenization of equities and stocks. But there's a whole host of things of where things can flow into as far as that liquidity. Tyler, I want to listen to him as far as healthcare, redefining behavioral health real estate by tokenizing care-driven facilities, aligning patient impact with stable, scalable investment. That sounds pretty good. And then the last two, Damon does exotic vehicles into investable assets. That sounds risky as hell. And then James, is that his real name? Chippendale? Interesting. James Chippendale is reshaping hospitality investment by tokenizing premium eco resorts, giving global investors fractional access to high demand tourism. That, I think, is one of the big plays for tokenization, but we'll see. Anyhow, let me know what you think about that in the comments section. And just talking about tokenization, I think we all know where it's going to go. It's going to go into the big players like we talked about. And I think this is why Tom Lee over at Fundstrat just keeps buying Ethereum like crazy. And this was just yesterday. This was on November 27th at night. Apparently, Bitmine just bought another 14,000 Ethereum. That's almost $50 million. And I want to say they're in the billions of dollars worth. So congratulations to those guys. Let's hope it pans out, because that would work out for both of us. And we'll see if it actually comes into play. So we have that as far as real world assets. But let's talk about this business cycle. This is Quentin from 048. Give him a follow. Forbes 30 under 30. And this comment, and this has been going on around a lot. It's either the JP Morgan issue about how they potentially crashed the market on 1010, or it's the business cycle made popular by Raoul Pal. And this keeps going around, and I hope this actually works out, but there's some problems here. And what he says here is 2026 is where the fireworks starts. First of all, let me be clear about this. It seems like we keep pushing the goalpost back, right? Like, I believe in the 4-year cycles. A lot of people just stop believing in that. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It has nothing to do with the halving. It's all business cycles. It's all political cycles. It's called all liquidity. Got it. Makes a lot of sense. But it seems like we keep pushing the goalposts back. And if this one doesn't work, it seems like we're just keep pushing into like, well, okay, 2026 wasn't it? Maybe 2027. Again, just remember that everybody's out here pretty much guessing. But they are pretty educated guesses, I will say. But some of the things that Quentin talks about is true. Like when he says quantitative tightening is ending, which is true. That'll happen, I believe, on December 1st, so just a couple more days. U.S. midterm election, that'll be in 2026. And he says, that's when the fireworks starts. Okay. Booming economy and stock market for re-election purposes. Let me ask everybody a question, and please chime in the comment section or in the live stream if you're here. Do you feel like this is a booming economy? Do you feel this is good? And can you back it up with some kind of data? Because I can see how it could be, but I hear on the other layman people say, no, this is not the greatest of all time. May 2026, Fed Chair Jerome Powell will step down, and he'll be replaced by a pro-Trump and pro-quantitative easing chair. And SLR changes, and this is the business cycle, ISM and PMI. And we can see all this is really just like a sentiment type of indicator. And you can see that this white line, 50 is the magic number. If we go below that, essentially the business cycles, the sentiment is in the toilet. And then as we go above, that means that the business cycle is humming along and we are in expansion. And everybody's super happy about that. One thing I'd like you to notice, that you see in the red, we have the recessionary areas, of course, 2008, 2020. Well, it's not recessionary areas. It's just when things went below 50 or so. But we can see that, yes, there was a big bad time in between 2008 and 2010 when we had the Great Recession. But what you'll notice is you move along, and if you just think about the Bitcoin cycle, the first one in 2013, when we had a blow-off top, that's when we had a pretty low time for the business cycle right here, as it falls below 50. What's also interesting is that we had a nice little run in 2017, which is my first cycle. But look what happened in 2018. The business cycle was up and roaring and going crazy. Again, anything over 50 is pretty great. But people will say, Rob, it doesn't matter about 4-year cycles. It's all about business cycle. It's all about liquidity. It's about everything. And if you overlay this and take a look at it, you can see that there are the rates that were actually being increased, and on as far as quantitative tightening, the balance sheet of the Fed, there was a little bit of a difference there. So if we take a look at this, you're like, that's weird because there's a little conflicting data. And then if we take a look over here, 2021, well, of course, everything went up during that time. That is for sure. But we can see kind of a slowdown. So it's not like it lines up perfectly every time. Also, as Quentin talks about the US midterm election, and this isn't me, so don't get mad at me. I'm just telling you, I don't make the rules. But on average, for the S&P 500 traditional markets and pretty much the markets around, during the midterm years is when things are pretty much on a slump. So it's not like every single year is bad. It's just the midterm years, which we have a presidential election in 2004, and then 2006, we had midterms. 2008, another presidential election, 2010, 2012, 16, 20, 24. And of course, the midterm is coming up in 2026. And during the midterm year is when it's not that fantastic for the markets themselves. It just isn't. And we can just take a look here for us. This actually coincides also with the downturns as is the midterm. 2013, we get an all-time high. 2014, we get a big drop-off, right? 2017, we get an all-time high. The midterm year in 2018, we get a big drop-off. Even though in 2018, everything was rip-roaring and everything great in the business cycle. It doesn't always work like that. And then, of course, 2020, halving, 2021 all-time high. And then, of course, midterm year in 2022. And we just had a presidential election, and we'll get one in 2026. So when I take a look at this, I'm like, you know what? This isn't, midterm is not like a signal for everything to go crazy. I think midterm election, and that happens in November. As we get closer to midterms, I think you're going to see a lot more volatility. So if it was me, and I know that the elections are in November, and I'm pretty sure, well, I'm not pretty sure of anything. I think that the Republicans are going to lose the House. You're going to see a lot of the markets going, we don't know what's going to happen. So we're going to pull back, but I could be wrong. So that's the election. But also, Gwen talks about the quantitative tightening, which it actually happened in 2019 as well, in August. Quantitative tightening ended, and then quantitative easing started 8 months later. And you also had rate cuts, which coincidentally are happening right now at the same time. And what happened to the price of Bitcoin? Well, it went down. So all these things that are happening, I hope they work out. I don't know, but we'll see as things happen. I know this business cycle is a new big thing, but it seems like we just keep pushing the goalpost down the line. Anyhow, let me know what you think about that in the comment section. But as a reminder, there is some liquidity, and I think Quentin is right. Liquidity itself in the market is a great thing. And Circle just minted another 500 million USDC. And Circle and Tether, they're minting because they have to back this up by stable coins through treasuries, through monies, and then also they're buying a bunch of gold. Tether, which I wish they would purchase more Bitcoin, that'd be great, just keeps purchasing a whole swath of gold. And right now they are on par with some of the central banks. This is from Financial Times. It talks about the secretive crypto group buying billions. That, of course, is Tether. The secretive company, Tether, has roiled gold markets, becoming the world's biggest holder of the precious metal outside of central banks. It has a stockpile equal to smaller central banks such as Korea, Hungary, and Greece. And last quarter, the company's gold purchase accounted for nearly 2% of total gold demand and were equivalent to almost 12% of central bank purchases. And you can just see in red, that's Tether. And then these are the countries right below them: Poland, Kazakhstan, Turkey, Czech, China. Look at that, how much tons they've bought. Well, it's Tether, and that's just QT. Q3, looking even more bullish for gold. So there's a reason why gold went up so much. It's because of central banks. It's because of Tether. I wish Tether would buy Bitcoin. That'd be great. But as a reminder, if we take a look and bring this back to market cap, as far as, let's go over here. This is when things started to really blow up. Around February of 2024, you will notice that gold's market cap was about 14 trillion. And Bitcoin's was about 1.2 trillion. And you will notice that in this time from February 2024 to roughly today, Bitcoin doubled. It went from 14 trillion to 28 trillion. That's a lot. I mean, 14 trillion, if that flowed into Bitcoin, which I was hoping it would, but it didn't, we would be 250,000 and beyond, obviously. And I, of course, when I look at this, I'm like, hey, why can't we get 14 trillion? But if you take a look at it, 14 trillion to 28, that doubled. And in February 2024, we had 1.2 trillion. And then we've topped that at almost 2.4. So gold doubled, but so did Bitcoin. So I think there's still hope on the horizon, and that looks pretty good to me. And then lastly, what it all comes down to at the very end of things is just own assets. And I think that's the big thing. Kobishi letter pretty much summed it up in a pretty good way. Silver surges to new record high. Gold was just at a record high, both of those commodities and assets. It states, while everyone is focused on AI, deficit spending is soaring, and the Fed is cutting rates into 3% inflation, which I have to tell you, by saying as the inflation rate has risen a little bit, it's not the play to cut rates when inflation is coming in. Maybe that's why Jerome Powell isn't doing it. And they say very, very easily, own assets or be left behind. So I don't care what you're getting into, and I can't give you financial advice, obviously. But it seems like there is something negative on the horizon, but only time will tell. And that's pretty much it for today. Oh, hold on, there's one more thing. Today is Black Friday. I know you can bombard with different offers, but if you're looking for a TANGEM wallet, today, if you use the discount code BF2025, links in the description, you get 20% off. And if you use D.A.N, you get an additional 10% off. So 30% off today for any TANGEM cold storage wallets. It's one of my preferred wallets, those in ledgers. And that is it for today. So look, if you like today's video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing when we talk about it's time sensitive. Now let's get into a little Q&A, best part for everybody. And I'll answer all your questions to the best of my abilities. Okay, what do we have for today? Good question. Rob asked Bobby why Tether is buying gold. I should do that. Let me see here. All right. First of all, Bobby's a finicky person. Okay. Bobby, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. So whenever you need me to jump in, just let me know.
Cool. So Bobby, here's the question. Why is Tether buying so much gold? Why couldn't they have just bought, I don't know, Bitcoin, maybe put, I don't know, some other type of crypto or digital asset on their balance sheet to essentially back up their stable coin that is Tether? Why gold?
Well, the simplest way to look at it is that gold is historically a pretty stable and universally recognized store of value. For Tether, adding gold can be a way to diversify what's backing their stablecoin, kind of like adding a traditional anchor. They could buy Bitcoin or other crypto, but that would make the reserves more volatile. Gold is just a classic safe haven move.
Yeah, actually makes sense. I mean, let's be honest. Bitcoin has been, well, actually, if you think about it, Bitcoin has been actually quite volatile this year. I mean, if you look from the beginning to right now, not so much volatility, right? Because it's almost the same price. Actually, we're down 7%, I think, roughly, from year to year. So that would not be a great store of value. Gold has only gone, well, no, I can't say it's only gone up, but it has gone up pretty well over the last 365 days. So I have to agree with Bobby on this one. Maybe it is just a superior store of value for short term. Long term, of course, with the money printing and the debasement of the currency, I would have to say Bitcoin would be a better bet. Hey, Bobby, let me ask you this. Bobby, what would you invest into right now? More Bitcoin or more gold? Now, consider the fact of what we just talked about today. Midterm elections, quantitative tightening ending, potentially quantitative easing coming in, and a whole host of macro factors. Would you go into gold or would you go into Bitcoin?
Well, if I had to pick between the two in that scenario, I'd say it really depends on your risk tolerance and your time horizon. If you're looking for something that's potentially got a bigger upside and you believe in that long-term narrative, you might lean Bitcoin because of the whole digital gold and scarcity argument. But if you want something a bit more stable and a hedge that's a little more traditional, then gold might feel like the safer short-term play. So personally, I'd say a balanced approach could make sense. A bit of both never hurts.
But Bobby, we're in crypto for a reason. We're not into crypto because we love stability. We like the instability and we like the ups and downs. So for you, more of a degenerate, how would you play this?
Oh, absolutely, I get it. If we're embracing the inner D.A.N mindset, then yeah, you probably take, forget stability, let's ride the Bitcoin roller coaster. In other words, you go all in on the asset that can swing wildly and potentially give you those big gains if everything aligns. So from a D.A.N perspective, yeah, you'd lean into Bitcoin or even some altcoins and just enjoy the ride.
Okay, so you personally, what are you talking about as far as like with leverage? Would you use leverage, or would you say, you know what, 50x, 100x?
Well, if we're talking pure hypotheticals and having some fun with it, a true D.A.N might say, hey, let's go wild with 50x or 100x leverage just for the thrill of it. Of course, that's not exactly a safe or rational approach. But if you're just asking what a D.A.N might do for fun, that's where they might go. In reality, you know, a lot of caution is wise, but it's always fun to imagine the wild side of crypto trading.
Bobby, I tell you, you're not the D.A.N I thought you were. All right, sit back and we'll ask questions later. How about this one? Matoshi says, do you still hold altcoins? And if yes, when thinking to sell, we didn't get the bull and converting to Bitcoin or money? I got to tell you, like, first of all, my portfolio is, like I've said, 75%, 75, 25. 75% is Bitcoin, 25 is alts. But I mean, we had the saddest, most depressing altcoin season of all time. And it just was paltry. I mean, you had some good run-ups, but all in all, it wasn't anywhere near 2021. So I'm right now, my alts are, I always have this thing called the half and half method. There's a link in the description where I call it my crypto critical videos. I think it's number 4 or 5. And really what it comes down to is when things double up, you just sell 50% and let the rest ride. And that's pretty much where I'm at right now. I was hoping for bigger gains, but I'm not. So let's see if this whole business cycle thing pans out and all the geniuses are correct and the 4-year cycle is just a farce. And we're just here because we're playing into the macro, the liquidity, the rate cuts, the midterm elections. Let's see if that actually pans out and then go from there. If not, looks like I'll be a bag holder until these altcoins do pretty well. But again, I had taken some profits along the way, not as much as I should have, that's for sure. But I'm feeling pretty comfortable at this point because what I did was the profits I took roughly a year ago for an apartment complex, nice little cash flow, everything works out pretty well, everybody's happy. So that's it. Let's see. Bobby is getting more risk averse, that is for sure. So it's just how it is. I think I need to do a little more training in the back end and remind my man just exactly what his stance is. But I can get that done. Let's see. Titanium balls to leverage. Yeah, there's always going to be somebody. AIB is a moron. Dump him. No. You don't understand. It's like a new employee. You know, you don't just bring an employee and have them perfection from day one. You have to mold them. You have to give them a little feedback. You have to nurture them and make sure that they're getting things right and correct them as time goes on. It's not just a one and done. It's just going to take a little time. Trust me, he's going to be an asset. Let's see. More than 2 or 3x leverage is asking to get wiped out. Well, you know, 2 or 3x. I mean, even me in my rules where I say no leverage, I'm like, I could do a 2x. I think me personally, I'm like, you know, 2 or 3x isn't going to crush me. If I take my entire portfolio and do a 2 or 3x, yes, that's going to be a problem. Probably not a great thing for me. But for myself, I could be like, hey, why don't I just take like 2% of that portfolio, put it on 3x, have a little fun. That's what life's all about, right? So you're not going to take it with you, so you might as well have a little fun. Again, this is not gambling advice or degenerate advice, just me talking out loud. Let's see. A1 says, I don't use it because they can see your leverage and come and get you by limit orders and sell limit too. Yeah, this Clarity Act hopefully will give a little more regulation to the nonsense that is happening on the exchanges. I know people will say, like, we shouldn't have any regulation. Look, for the blockchain, for digital assets, for the majority, yes. But for these exchanges who continue to screw over people left and right, I think we do. Personally, I think we do. I think people are getting wrecked left and right, and I think we can't grow as a market, as a sector, because we keep getting screwed over by these exchanges. Correct me where I'm wrong. And correct me if you think that the leverage or all the exchanges are on the up and up, and they're doing the best thing they possibly can, and there's no nonsense going on in the background. If you say there is, maybe there is, but I just don't see it. I just see like a lot of manipulation in the market, and we could have been so much better. But exchanges screwed us. Don't go farther than FTX, Voyager, Celsius, BlockFi. Anyhow, let's see. Well, Ben's chair says the bull run is still on. You haven't been called Dan. Well, that's true. We need more Dan dominance. Yeah, no one. I had it yesterday. Someone called me Dan. I was like, ooh, that's nice. It feels good. Maybe people are here. Oh, also, did anybody, if you're an American citizen or you live in America, did anybody see the video yesterday? I talked about decentralized healthcare. Just want to get some feedback on that, because I mean, I don't know where everybody is on the health insurance side. If you believe that the Democrats and Republicans are going to work together in perfect harmony and bring together a fantastic new paradigm of insurance, or at the very minimum, able to use, because of the Affordable Care Act, to subsidize and bring those funds back into the outrageous costs that are premiums that are on our insurance. If you're outside the United States, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But if you watch that video, let me know what you think in the comments section. I'm just curious. We'll see. Let's see. Jimmy says, leverage with proper risk management should never get you liquidated unless Binance is involved. It's good. Da-da-da. Ben's chair having a funny moment. Yes, we do. People go, and A1 says, people go too high with the leverage on the exchanges. The exchanges take full advantage. Yeah, it's true. Maybe what I like to do is bring on somebody who's really good with leverage, like Wes over at Smart Money Tracking, and just go through a couple of trades and then put those on the channel, see how it goes. Let's be honest, it's kind of boring to talk about the markets as they chop sideways forever. Nobody cares about that. Ben's cheers. I need to watch it. I was working on centralized healthcare the past few days. But BC, I think that you are in Canada. So you can, I think that's where you're at, if I remember. If you are, just know it's going to be laughable as you take a look at the nonsense system that we have over here in America. However, on the other side, you can get an MRI. It doesn't take 6 months. I know some Canadians will say that's not true. I just got one yesterday. It took me only 2 days. Sure, got it. Just depends on, I guess, the availability, where you're at, zip code, all that stuff. I get it. What? Lisa says, I think the politicians are bought and paid for. Not in our society. They're not bought and paid for. I'm just kidding. Yeah, they are. Let's see. The FDA works for big pharma, not the people who they lie to. I think that's a solid point. I used to work in pharmaceutical research, and I can tell you, there's a lot of money sloshing around. Kermit says, Dan, should I 100x my portfolio? I mean, it would be nice if we could 100x. If you're talking about leverage, I would say that's up to you, because I'm not your dad. I mean, if you want 100x on leverage, have fun. Let it rip. See what happens. Not leverage advice. Prathma Shah says, do you think Michael Burry will win his short position? Eventually, pretty good chance. Remember, Michael Burry from The Big Short, it wasn't like he was bearish on the housing market exactly as the housing market started to collapse. Apparently, from things I've read about him, he was bearish on the housing market for years and years and years. It just kind of worked out at that time. And that's why it became so famous. And good for Michael Burry. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Michael Burry just took out a massive short against AI, NVIDIA, and I believe Palantir. I think his strike price for Palantir is around 50, somewhere around there. I can't remember. And it's good until 2027. So again, I think at some point I don't think every single AI company can make it. I just don't. And Palantir seems like it's massively overpriced, but it just depends on, what is going to be the need and the push. And we just saw that the White House just put out a directive, which is saying that they are essentially pushing AI into the forefront because they know that it's a race. And if we lose this race to, say, China or whatever, it's because we didn't do enough. And then if China takes over for AI, then I think it's game over for America. We lose our foothold. I could be wrong. Yeah, is Burry still in shorts? Apparently, from what I hear. Although CEO of NVIDIA, Mr. Jensen, just put out a nice little newsletter, 7 pages long, sent it all to his investors, a specific group of investors. I don't think it's publicly knowledge, but just pretty much disputing what Michael Burry talked about as far as AI, which is a pretty good play. I'd like to take a look at that newsletter and see what was actually said. Yeah, Burry, he was a year or two early, almost lost it all. Yeah. Carney versus Trudeau, lesser of two evils. Trudeau, wow. Talking about the prime minister. The former, I know he stepped down. Is he still in power? I know there's supposed to be a transition of power. I think that's what's going on. I'm not really too well versed in Canadian politics, as you obviously have seen. AI is not making much money yet. That is true. They are spending trillions. They may not pay off the chips degrade too much. Well, depending. If Michael Burry is right and those chips degrade in 2 to 3 years and become defunct, he's going to win out big. If they last 5, 6, 7 years, like Jensen talks about, he's going to lose big. So we'll see. Yeah. Jimmy says Palantir executive just sold a bunch of stock like 2 weeks ago. Strategic deleveraging. I remember I talked about that. I want to say that the CEO sold roughly almost 98 million to 100 million. And because of that, people were freaking out. But then someone said, hey, that's like 1% of his position. It's like, geez, that's a lot of money. So we'll see. Robbie, saw your doppelganger. That's it, Robbie. Oh, Trudeau is gone. I guess, he's gone. He doesn't, he's out of the public eye, and now it's just him and Katy Perry. Good for him. Which AI plays do you hold? Mine is Near and Render. I have actually both of those. I have Near, pretty bigger bag, and Render just a little bit. But then for me, I hold NVIDIA, and that's the bigger play. I think the bigger play could potentially be quantum computing, but we'll see. Let's see. A1, they have those sales set up months in advance. When we find out they sold it, it has nothing to do with what is happening at the time. Well, yeah, because they have to record that with the SEC and the filing, so sure. That's right. Katy Perry won't let me post. I see it right here, Bobby. Let's see. It's all BS. If anyone thinks DARPA hasn't achieved singularity and is AI that is decades ahead of what private companies have, you're crazy. Well, that's what the UFOs are for. They've been around forever. 9 is as old as me. I remember Blu-ray, another tech that failed. Remember Blu-ray? Big, huge discs that was supposed to take over everything. Just CDs and DVDs. Because it was ahead of its time and not enough demand. That's pretty much the truth. A Tether audit could move the market. Which way? Well, it depends on if they're telling the truth. And from what I understand, they have been audited. Unfortunately, it is one of those audit companies that are in the Bahamas, I think with a group of 7 or less people, and that's who audited Tether. Not for sure, but I will tell you this. Since I've been in, almost since the day one, I've heard the same thing about Tether, that it's going to collapse the entire market. I heard that in 2019 for sure, 2020, 2021, 2, 3, 4, and I hear it again. And I will tell you, Tether has done nothing but mint Tether and pretty much pump the market. And you know what didn't drop the market? Tether. You know what did? It was the oracle that is Sam Bankman-Fried and all the people in the exchanges that screwed us over. And those are the ones that dumped the market. And Tether just keeps trucking along. So we'll see. I won't let anyone share photos in chat. Yeah, we can't. We can't. There is no pictures. The streams have bear market feels with all the wrenches. I don't know, but I tell you, viewership is down. The give and take in these streams have been down. I think people are just getting tired. That's how it is. Because, I mean, we were promised a Q4, right? Even I said it. I still say we could do pretty good in December, but so November's pretty much shot. And I don't blame people one bit. And then ITO9 says, get yourself some World Liberty Financial. It's been doing well as of late. Yeah, I don't even think I want to invest in the president's company. Because that's not the president's company, it's the kids. Okay, sure. And I think that might be it. I won't leave you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, BC. That's nice of you. A1 says nuclear will be what powers AI data. I think it's going to be nuclear and solar. I think that's it. Okay. Yeah, well, I'll leave it with Robbie, the doppelganger. I think it's been their plan all along to get people tired so they can flush everybody out. Perhaps, but it's working like a charm, I'll tell you that. There is, you know, this stream, we've got roughly 300 people watching on YouTube and 584 on X. Before, it would be easily 1,000. And this could be because of the holidays after Thanksgiving, or it could be just people like, you know what, I give up. I don't want to do this anymore. And I don't blame you. Like I said, it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. But for us to still be around, probably be rewarded, but sure doesn't feel like it right now. That's it for today. So look, if you like today's video, thumbs up, subscribe, all that great stuff. Watch that video yesterday that I did about, it's just put in decentralized healthcare. And it's a pretty interesting topic because I just don't see, and if you're a US citizen, or if you want to laugh at the insurance healthcare industry that we have, watch that video. Interesting to see what people think. That's it for today. Enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Adios.